I want to quickly mention this before I go into other stuff. Quickly talk about this because I just remembered this. Um, I don't know why I forgot to talk about this, but this is a clip taken from the T-Fat-K channel. I know a lot of guys that for whatever reason, I don't know why, but people don't like this guy's channel. Who's this guy here? T-Fat-K. A lot of people don't really like the channel guy. I don't know what the deal is, but I don't know. I find the clips entertaining enough. They're pretty short and whatnot, but some people don't like his channel. But anyway, regardless, he's got this clip up. Sorry. Oh my God. He's got this clip up where he's talking about, the clip is from BGL interview with Red Bar. This is what started the entire BGL promo tour of kind of trashing on Brendan. And I forgot to mention this in my streams, but BGL here basically reveals how much money Brendan pays Bryan Callen, or how much money Bryan Callen gets from T-Fat-K, which is weird to say that, right? You should be saying how much Bryan Callen gets from the Fire and the Kid, but because of how the dynamic has changed between the both of them, it's definitely more a case of how much money Brendan pays Bryan, right? Because Brendan is definitely Brendan's boss. They're no longer partners or anything in this little partnership they've got going on here. So this is really interesting because this is a clip where BGL reveals how much Brendan gets monthly, and this maybe makes a lot more sense as to why Brendan is so cucked for Brendan, and why it makes every excuse under the sun for him, doesn't necessarily see his faults, and essentially was willing to bury his friendship with Bobby Lee in favor of Brendan, because essentially that guy's been paying his mortgage, his rent, his car bill, he's flipping, restaurant bills for a very, very, very long time. And this is the clip taken from the T-Fat-K channel.
Interesting. Where is, because the Fighter and the Kids numbers are getting pretty low. Bryan's Patreon numbers are pretty low. My biggest wonderment, I'm always wondering. I'm a big gossip queen. I'm always wondering. I wonder where he's getting the money to afford this lifestyle that he set up with the ex-wife, with the kids. Was Fighter and the Kid bringing in a lot of money currently while you were working with them?
I don't really know the finances. My understanding was Bryan got a flat fee,
okay,
of $25K a month or something like that. That's coming from Brendan, so take that.
$25K a month, okay.
But and then Brendan would take the rest. I really don't know. Like, it's just, it's honestly not something that I think that much about, but I would say that probably a decent source of income for him. They still do a lot of ad reads. So even, I know, here's the thing is, like, that lags. You know what I mean? Like, if your views are going down, but you still have a sponsorship deal with, like Happy Hippo Kratom or something like that, it's not like it's dependent each month on
really
views, but if you have
they're still giving you the same fee regardless of if your views are dipping,
right? Because you would negotiate like a 6-month term or a year-long term.
Okay.
But then they're gonna be like, well, you didn't quite reach as many eyeballs as you projected, so we're gonna have to renegotiate.
$25K a month. That's nearly
He's got my thumbnail. Big up T-Fat-K for using that. Big up. But
reach as many eyeballs as you projected, so we're gonna have to renegotiate.
25.
But yeah, $25K per month. This makes a lot more sense why Bryan Callen takes all that abuse from Brendan on a daily basis, disrespect, cucking, and just sticks up for him. Probably more than his actual family, right? He sticks up more for Brendan Schaub than he'd stuck up or tried to fight for his marriage. He sticks up more for Brendan Schaub than any other thing under the sun. He really loves the guy, but it makes a lot more sense if he's getting paid $25K a month, because you'd imagine over the course of Bryan Callen's career, he's gone up and down in terms of notoriety, popularity, fame, and whatnot. He probably hasn't had a stable income in a long time, right? The nature of being an actor, or a comedian actor, or a presenter, a host, all that sort of stuff, I would imagine it's pretty unpredictable. You can't really, depend on the kind of money you're going to be getting. But if from the start of T-Fat-K pulling in numbers, they were always consistently getting like 5K, 10, 15, 20, 25, and now it's kind of, maybe 50 in the real heyday, and now sort of like leveled out to 25, and they get that on a consistent monthly basis. It would make a lot more sense why Bryan is so willing to jump out the window for Brendan and to really kind of throw it all away and risk it all to defend that man, because essentially, like I said, he's been paying and supporting that man for a long time. Now, my personal theory has always been, and because I always had a little think in my head thinking that how this, especially after the whole divorce settlement thing came out, it's like, Jesus, and the R-word allegation, like, how can you like sustain all of that sort of stuff, innit? And my initial kind of idea behind it was as follows. I thought that if you're Bryan Callen and you got a really rich dad, right? A really rich dad, like a guy that's made a lot of money. He's worked in banking, his entire life. Read his read his biography. You can find it online if you do your Googles. But he's very, very wealthy. If that's the case, and I'm a big believer, and Brian's always told this joke about, I think him and his sister saying something like, they're gonna call dad to get money or something. It was a running joke they used to do before on TFATK. But I've always had the theory that Brian has got a trust fund or has got some sort of allowance that he gets, and that's what basically affords him the luxury to kind of do what he does. Because for somebody who is like, what is he? Bryan Callen's like mid-50s. He's got alimony to pay. He's got 2 kids who are still way under 16, I think. So that's a long time to kind of support them technically on paper by like a court judgment in terms of child support. And I think the alimony was something crazy, like 20 grand a month or something. It was really, really nuts. I might actually try and get that up actually to see what Bryan Callen's alimony payment was. But I'm pretty sure it was a crazy amount. Bryan Callen, alimony. Let's see what this says here. Oh, God almighty. Okay, it was 20k a month according to TMC. Holy shit. Okay, so my man's got 20k a month to pay. You've got your income going down because of the R-word allegations, and then you get another woman pregnant who then becomes your wife, and then you have to obviously support that person. And from what I've seen online, again, don't know much about the lady, but she looks like the type that probably, doesn't mind not working. So if that's the case, then you have to look after 2 families basically. And you don't have the opportunities that you had previously, right? I'm pretty sure, Bryan Callen's not going to be in The Joker 2. Let's just say that. Even in cameo, it's not going to happen anytime soon. His Hollywood acting career, comedic career is basically over because for the most part, production companies are really nervous about people that get cancelled. They just don't want anything to do with it. And if that guy, Armie Hammer, who, so what, he's a cannibal. So what, he might like to eat people and that's his kink, but essentially that's all he basically did, right? He just he basically got a bit of a creepy kink going on, and maybe he freaked out some of the hoes. But if Armie Hammer looked good looking as a man as he is, right? Because Armie Hammer's an absolute smoke show of an absolute of a white man, right? That's a very, very, there he is, right? That's a very, very good looking white guy. As you can see from my search history, I'm looking at him, right? If he's finding it hard to get back into Hollywood and he only eats people, can you imagine how hard it's going to be from flipping Bryan Callen, who R-words people allegedly, to get back into Hollywood? It's going to be pretty impossible. If he does get back in there, congratulations to Bryan Callen. If he manages to get his way back into Hollywood, I give him all the props. But if he doesn't, you have to support 2 families on the income of a stand-up comedian and also podcaster. So my honest theory behind it was that either podcasting pays way more than we kind of think it does, right? The money in there is really crazy, which I think it still is. I think a good sponsor and a good ad can get you a long way. I think I said before that I remember listening to Jerry a lot before the Spotify deal, and basically reading between the lines from other comedians who like to gossip, and Joe Rogan himself. Before the Spotify deal, it was kind of widely known that Joe was making anywhere between like 30 mil to 70 mil a year from the show, right? And that was from just the show just running as it is, and that wasn't including whether he gets on ad reads. That was just from the show just generating what it did before he went to Spotify and signed that exclusivity deal. So you can imagine what the ad read. If you listen to old JRE, he had tons of ads. He had tons of ads at the start. He had a few ads in the middle, a few ads in the end. Like all those ads, you kind of you usually get a big kind of sizable chunk that you kind of get given beforehand. So that makes a lot more sense. So, in conclusion, I thought Bryan Callen always had a flipping trust fund, or maybe he gets an allowance from his dad. Even in his mid-50s, I think that's definitely will be the case. There'll be a reason why he's going to keep it quiet, because his whole stick is being a real man and stuff. So probably it's a part of him that's not the most proudest, that he's in his mid-50s, and he basically has to ask his dad for money to basically fund his lifestyle. But I imagine that be the case in that some regard. And also happened to see that maybe TFAK does really pay pretty well also, that can kind of cover his nut. But it does explain in general why Bryan is so defensive over Brendan, because Brendan has been the only consistent in his career. Weirdly enough, as redacted as Brendan is, he's actually been the only consistent thing in Bryan Callen's career over a long period of time, especially when it comes to making good income. And I'd imagine in Hollywood, with how transient that whole that world is, people coming in and out, unpredictability. To have something that legitimately gives you a general amount of money over time is a real privilege and something that you don't take for granted. So it's no surprise that, you know, Brenda's holding his chest, Bryan's there patting his back and pouring him water and indulging in his lies and whatnot, because hey, you know, you got to know where your bread's buttered, innit? You have to know where your bread's buttered. So I completely understand that one. I completely understand